It's Keith Jones in the flesh.
And it is Rick Strom. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, but hey, this is a beautiful color on you, man.
Thank you. I was just admiring your linen shirt. Very nice.
You know, I like linen these days. It's great for the summer.
It is.
Nice
It
and
is.
cool.
Exactly. And it's really nice in Sedona right now, isn't it?
Beautiful, just beautiful. It's a little toasty during the day. It's probably, mid 90s, low 90s, but it could be worse. And the nights are always great.
Yeah, the nights are beautiful, aren't
Oh
they?
yeah, we get down to like 68, 70.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's really terrific.
Yeah, we get down to about 95.
Yeah, but you guys all have pools. We don't have pools up there.
You don't need them.
That's true.
Yeah, man, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Well, today I was feeling really good. I had a great workout this morning, and then I did some swimming, and I'm so out of shape for swimming. You got to have that special kind of training for swimming. I mean, it's a lot of breath work too, but stroking, my back is sore, so.
Oh, that's good. You like that though?
I love that. That's really cool, yeah.
It is good. So today's topic is going to be on healthy social networks.
Very good. I love that topic. And one of the things that strikes me about that is when we think about social networks, I think the operative word is social because it implies something a little different than family. We probably ought to work in a bit about family as well. But the cool thing about the social network is that you get to pick who is your family and outside of blood. This is an area where you have absolute choices, whereas when we're in a family, we're I don't want to say stuck, but we're put in a position where we have not made a choice about who's in it. And we may have some tension or difficulty with people who are in our family that we wouldn't have in our social group. Although in our social group, if we pick them in a way that's based on prestige or it's based on some artificial quality outside of what is important in life, like love and tenderness and kindness and helping, mutual cooperation, then you can have some issues that are not so good as well. So anyway, I think all of that is wrapped up in our topic today.
I agree, and I'd like to add one more distinction too.
Please, yes.
And that distinction would be what we're talking mostly about has nothing to do with, or very little to do with, the social network that is related to technology, like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, Snapchat, and those things. We're talking about, person to person, flesh to flesh, not through a screen or a false identity of who you are.
Eyeball to eyeball. That's right.
Eyeball to eyeball.
I think that's a very good point. The falsity is what we're trying to get at. We're trying to uproot this falsity, get rid of the falsity. Our own masks, and we want to be with people that don't have masks. If possible, we want to get to the true person behind the eyeballs, the heart, the soul of that person. One of the things I think that's a big problem with social media is that we don't have that kind of contact, that physical contact.
Right.
That anonymity makes us much more prone to be uncivil, to be mean, to be unkind. I don't know why that is, but I think it is. I think that's just one of the conditions of being on social media. And one of the reasons why I think you and I and Tim don't mess with it.
We don't mess with I think we've become pretty clear on what those base instincts that are not loving, not kind, that are negative. And social media has a tendency to amplify those things. And so those things lead to suffering for ourselves and for others. And so we're choosing not to amplify that any more than it already is.
So I want to ask you, Keith, how do you go about picking? If you were to be just dropped in here, you never had seen Scottsdale, you'd never been to Arizona, and you show up, how would you go about picking people that you would want to have in your life as part of your social network? How do you do that?
I think the first thing I would probably notice would be whether peacefulness is present for the other person. So I noticed that. So what I mean, is there this constant complaining about life, people, the weather, events that happen, living in the past, all of that is an indicator to me that they're not in a peaceful space, or they're not trying to get to a peaceful space. How do I know it? Because I've lived it. So, because I was that dude.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's right.
A few years
Nobody
ago,
was worse. That's right.
a few years ago, I wouldn't choose me to be in my social network. So that's how I know it, man.
Same with me, though. I mean, that's how you know when stuff isn't working, when you're suffering.
Yes.
Because you're doing all of that nonsense.
Totally,
Yeah.
trying to achieve, caught up with all those things, and I would also be looking for someone that if they saw people like that, that they would have compassion and empathy for them, and not judge them or feel the need to improve them. You know, I know a lot of people that are, for example, believe on one side of the political aisle than the other, and they think their view is superior. So they identify with the thought is them. And I'm just like, we have different views on that, you know, but you're not a bad person, I'm not a bad person, you're not judging the person. Or, you know, I'm vegetarian and you're not, you know, so I'm more superior than you. Like all that kind of stuff I'm looking for in people that are not judging, who are open, and who are grateful and really committed to serving others. Like those are some of the traits I'm looking for my social network.
Yeah, I think for me it's the same. I would say compassion, first of all, not complaining, not judging. Those are the big three.
Mm-hmm.
And so compassion is hard to spot because there's a lot of false compassion. You know, people who do things for other people but tell you about them. tell you how many dollars they gave to charity, you know, what great things they did last weekend for those, you know, the disabled. And
yeah, it's you know, the good thing, the one I like is like, you know, when you go and feed the homeless, that's for others. When you post it on Facebook that you went to feed the homeless, that's for you.
For you.
So yeah, so you're looking for the former.
I'm looking for the former, and you know it's not easy to find because you just sometimes never see it, and then all of a sudden one day when you're not supposed to see it, you see some beautiful act of kindness,
right? And
you realize, oh man, this person has been doing this a long time.
Right.
I think that resonates, but you can tell with compassionate people just how they act and how their affect is with you. Most people who are compassionate are great listeners. That's a number one thing, I think, for compassionate people, along with not gossiping and not judging.
The gossiping and the judging, man. Wow.
Well,
they go hand in hand, don't they?
They do indeed. Well, you know, Keith, one of the things I was thinking for both of us, if we ended up in a place that we had never been before, I think we'd probably both seek out a gym, right? Because that's
for sure
kind of what we do. So when we're in a gym, the thing that I look for is the person who is, you can tell, is pushing him or herself, but is not complaining about the pain or the difficulty associated with pushing it. And if they're with a workout buddy, they're not saying, oh man, I don't want to do this anymore, or oh,
right.
my Achilles is killing. You know, you don't hear any of that. They just go about their business in a calm, predictable, disciplined way. That is very impressive to me. So I'd go to a gym, I would look to see if I could find people who are like that, and then I'd strike up a conversation about things that are maybe not necessarily even important, just about life. And I love people in my social network who don't take things too seriously, including themselves. Mm-hmm. You know, like, you know, they're happy to talk about failures, their own failures, or, you know, if they misstep or they drop the weight, they're not trying to cover it up or, you know, point to somebody else. It's like, oh man, I'm a klutz or whatever.
Right.
I mean, the idea is that none of it is important, but what is important is being real.
Right.
And that authenticity really touches me, and I think all of us.
It does for me too. I'm really looking for that. And with what you said, those traits, the compassion, the kindness, the active listening, the empathy, serving others. You know, what's interesting about that is that when you see people like that, and you said they've been doing it for years, they've been working on it for years. So the underlying commonality that people that I want in my social network and you want in yours, the one thing they have all in common is every day they're working on that. Like to be that, you know, it doesn't matter that they were that way yesterday. They're cultivating that every day, and they're doing the work on themselves so that continues to be how they show up. And you can see them, it doesn't matter what they do, but that loving kindness is in their doing. Like it informs how they act the action that they take. I'm looking for that. You go into a restaurant, I'm looking at the person, how they treat the server, how they order their food.
That's a great indicator.
Just things
That's a
like that,
great
how
indicator.
kind they are. Something goes wrong in the media and this celebrity is being talked about. They don't engage in it. They just see it and they just say, pass the thought along, or the news clip. They don't have a comment about it. They're not outraged about it, talking about it. They're just kind all the time. And going back to the server, like the person that you mentioned that you were out having dinner and they had this beautiful white dress on, the server spilled the wine on them, and you were telling me that they could have been more kind and gracious about that. It's like, hey, don't worry about it, I've had bad days like that too. It's not a problem. Not like get the manager over here, I'm gonna sue him, and where's the bill, and who can I send the cleaning bill to? Why you a klutz, all this stuff. Like, it was none of that. She was just super kind in a situation like that, regardless of how the server may have reacted. The server may have been like, listen, you bumped my hand, or you made me spill it on you, or whatever. Or the server may have not apologized in a very sincere way. It didn't matter to your friend. Her role, her job is just be loving kindness, and that's how she expressed it. That's what I'm looking for.
I agree with you on that completely, Keith. One of the things that I think we're all up against in this culture is that we have sort of for want of a better word, I think I'd call it a blame culture.
Yes.
And our TV is designed to do this. Certainly our news is focused on this. It's always, if there's a problem, there's always commentary about who's responsible and who's to blame. And in my business as a lawyer, that's part of what I have to do. I have to figure out who's at fault and who ought to be responsible and who ought to pay the victim. But I step out of that role when I'm in my personal life, because I think that's a toxic way to look at life in general. I think blame doesn't help you solve. Blame just makes you focus on being madder about it and being upset about it, instead of saying, okay, this is where we are. It doesn't matter what happened. If Rick blew it, okay, he blew it. Maybe there'll be consequences for him down the road, but for right now, we have to figure a way out of this and patch up whatever that mistake was that Rick made. So I'm always interested in how people assess what bad things have happened in their lives and who is responsible.
Right.
And if it's someone who's taking responsibility, that's like 10 points, man. That's the gold standard.
Exactly.
If they take responsibility themselves, and the second part of that is if they don't blame others. It might be, I've got myself in a rough situation, man. Help me, how do I get out of this thing, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what you want in a friend. At the end of the day, it's twice the fun, half the heartache to have a buddy or a lover.
Right.
You're having twice as much good things happen and half as much bad things, because you're sharing with a like-minded soul.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, not passing the blame buck, man. And what often companies blame is judgment. And the minute that you get into judgment, you have already made yourself superior and the other person inferior, and that's just suffering for everybody. And I'm looking for people that are not interested in suffering. And I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just want somebody who's who's committed to. yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm not looking for perfection.
No. I was going to say,
you're my co-host.
No,
I'm kidding.
You ought to see him on the squat rack, man. If you aren't perfect on the squat rack.
Okay, maybe there's one area squats. Okay, come on, let's nail those.
Yeah, all right.
Okay. Other than that, you can give me that one, right?
Oh, I got you now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and also, in all seriousness, we're not talking about being perfect, because we're certainly not, and we talk about the warts and ways that we've stumbled along the way. But I'm looking for people, like you said, that can be kind to themselves, to others, compassionate. And they can give a little grace when a person needs the grace and a soft place to land.
Yeah, well, nobody's going through this unscathed. That's one of the things that's kind of interesting. I would love for everybody to take up boxing for a little bit. We did a little boxing in ToBeRe.
Yeah, that's great.
I kind of got this from that little limited experience, and here's what it is. It's not the idea that you are going to go through life without taking hits. Some people think if you take hits, there's something wrong with you. You're doing something wrong. And maybe if it's an extreme amount of hits, you probably are. But in general, life is about taking hits, right?
Right.
But we all have this idea when we start out that I shouldn't be taking any hits.
Right.
What's the story? I shouldn't be hit. Well, if you box, the whole point of boxing is you're defending and you're learning how to take a hit
Right.
at the same time you're doing offense. And so the idea is that you're going to take hits, but how you react to those hits, like blaming and judging and saying it's other people's fault and it's always this way and I'm a victim and it shouldn't be happening to me. I'm such a good person. And then you start crying and it's down the rabbit hole. All that's worthless and it's going to cause you more suffering. But I know that feeling because I used to do it a lot. I mean, that was part of the way. That's the way I used to relate to life.
Yeah, that's how we both can identify with it. We can spot it.
Well, I can just tell you, get rid of it because you'll have a much better time once you do.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about for a moment something a little different. Okay, now we've got our social network. We've got a few good friends that we like, that we think are honest, that have no mask, that are compassionate and kind.
Can I say one thing? That's not excluding other people.
I was hoping I would get a whole paragraph.
Okay, you will in a
No,
second.
fine.
That's not excluding other people. We're just holding space for those people and being kind. And maybe they'll want to be a part of this whole, peaceful living too.
You're talking about the judgers and the ones that you don't want in your circle?
Right, the people that aren't in your circle.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we're not saying we don't like you, you can't, you're not a good person or anything like that. We've got no comment on that part of it. We just want these people that add value to our lives, who help nurture us and teach us how to be our best.
Well, and how many times, and this has happened in both of our lives, how many times have you just done your thing and because you're the way you are, people are attracted to you because they like that feeling of being around you. They're not going to be judged, they're not going to be talked about, they're not going to be gossiped over, you're not going to complain that they did something to upset your life. So there's people like you, and I hope me, are kind of a safe haven for other people to feel comfortable with.
Absolutely. I've got a lot of friends. Not everybody's in that immediate social network, though. The people that are doing the work, man, come on in. There's room for everybody.
Yeah,
but I love everybody, period. Okay, to your point.
I've forgotten what it was. Could you play it back, please, for me, Steve? Okay, here's what I was going for. I think the two things that I wanted to talk about and that kind of expand from this is what do you do about folks that aren't in your social network? We talked a little bit about that in terms of friends. And then secondly, if we're in a situation where we have family that is very difficult for us. I mean, not just people you don't like because of personality quirks, but Uncle Fred who owes you a lot of dough, or someone who made fun of your wife,
Or somebody who's super negative.
super negative and continues to do that. And even though you don't want to be around them, you're thrown together with them at a party, or Thanksgiving, or the 4th of July. What do you do?
Or you live with them in the same household.
Well, that can be
You're married to them.
You can fix that, man. That's not a problem.
Okay.
So I think the first principle is I think it's very important. I don't think it's necessary to swallow everything that you believe about yourself and how you approach life, like the calmness, the compassion, the idea of detaching. I don't think any of that should go away because you feel like you owe something to somebody else. You have in your own heart your own way of doing things, and that ought to stay, provided you're not doing things that are hurtful to others, and secondly, hurtful to yourself, which we both believe judging is, and gossiping is, and blaming is. So if you eliminate those things and then say, okay, this is who I am, they can do however they want to do. They can be whatever they can not pay back the bill.
Right.
They can continue to badmouth. Well, that's them. That's where they are in their path. You can't go over there and make them change their ways because you are offended. I think the better way is to just be so strong in yourself that you're impervious to it.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Otherwise, you get into kind of a neurosis. I'm on a roll. I'm on a roll.
Yeah, keep rolling, baby.
Okay,
Roll, baby, roll.
Okay, so it's like saying, hey, gravity. It's like I know gravity's going to work every day, but why does it have to? If you're complaining about things that are real instead of just adapting to them, that is suffering. That's neurotic.
Absolutely.
2 + 2 is 4. But why does it have to always be 4? Why can't it be 5 or 3? No, that's the reality. You might as well just get used to the reality.
Or continue suffering.
And that's right. And get rid of your expectation and your need for Uncle Joe to pay your bill back.
Right.
Now that's not saying you don't talk about it. You do. But if he doesn't,
you let it go.
let it go.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
All right, I'm done. I'm saying.
Dude, that was great, man. Nice work, baby. Roll it. So To that point, how would I deal with something like that, or how have I done it before?
Yeah.
Is, I just kind of talk to the person, and I say to them, like, listen, here's the kind of relationship I want to create with you, and I want to create one where, there's positive energy flowing between us. We are open to each other. We don't bring judgment or gossip or any of those things to the relationship. Instead, we continue to try to build each other up in a healthy way and try to bring value to each other's lives. Are you open to that?
Yeah, yeah.
And tell me what you need from me.
Yeah, and when it goes south, okay, Keith, I'm really disappointed. I don't want to have anything between us, but 3 days ago, I was expecting that you were going to call me back. This is exactly the opposite of what happened. I didn't call him back. And I'm a little hurt about that because I prioritize our relationship, and I'm feeling, the way that lands on me is I'm feeling like I don't have any value in your life, or less value than, say, cleaning your belly button. So, let's talk about it.
Right.
Yeah, so the idea is you don't let things go by and fester you with a friend or someone who's, anyone. But you bring them up and you talk about it, but you talk about it with the idea of how it affects you, not you are wrong because you did this. It's more like, hey, the way what you did, that circumstance landed on me in this way, and this is how I feel. And I think it's legitimate to talk about that.
Oh, I completely agree. And if the other person is not open to it or doesn't want to form a partnership with you on the kind of relationship that you want to create, then you accept that. And what I've learned to do with people that may not want to live a peaceful life, or they can't even see their way to get to the road to live a peaceful life, what I've learned to do is to have compassion for them. And I let go of my expectation that they should be a different way. And the way I liken it is one of the greatest basketball players ever played is Michael Jordan. So let's take Michael Jordan in his prime, and I'm a person who's never touched a basketball, and who's going to win that one-on-one game? Keith has never played. Ladies and gentlemen, he's playing Michael Jordan today, so you're going to see who's going to win the game. Now, everybody knows I'm going to get dunked on and embarrassed on the court by Michael Jordan. So you wouldn't have an expectation of me beating him because he's trained for basketball his entire life. My training has been gossip, judging, complaining about life, making everything wrong. I'm skilled in that, but that's not the game Jordan is playing. So people will look at me like, I didn't expect Keith to win. Guys, give him a break. Keith, nice effort. And so for other people that aren't peaceful, that aren't always kind, that aren't always positive, have compassion for them because they're not training that way every day. Not when you watch the news every day, you're getting pulled into what's going on. That occupies your space. You spend the majority of your time on social media being pulled and tugged this way. You think you're running social media. No, it's running you.
That's right.
That's right. So I wouldn't expect a person to be fully conscious in that way, so I'd have compassion for them. And so that's really informed, and I'm just trying to be loving and kind to everybody. And for the people that want to live a peaceful life and are working toward that, I want them in my network.
I agree, and I also think this raises a very important point with the way that we're so polarized politically in our country. As long as we demonize other people, as long as we make them stupid or lazy or whatever the epithet is that one side is using against the other, and you dehumanize them, there's never going to be any opportunity to have any common area.
Right.
You're basically dealing with, you're delegitimizing their right as a human being to have an opinion, even though you think that opinion is uninformed or not real or not consistent with history or whatever your position might be. I think if we would all just get to the point that if we have a problem, let's say it's like a little ball of wax. You got this problem, boom, we put it on a table. There's the problem. Whether it's unemployment or cancer, whatever it is, there's the problem, boom, put it on the table. All of us who are sitting around the table, figuratively, are every voter, every person, every adult in the U.S. And if we would take away the labels and say, here's our problem, this ball of wax, what do you think we can do to fix it? Without trying to say, oh, Keith, that is so ridiculous for you to even think that. Did you know? And then you go off on that road, making him wrong.
Totally.
Or Keith comes back at me and does the same nonsense. The ball's going to sit there
Right.
unfazed while you all get off on making fun of each other.
Right.
So the idea is we're all human beings. We all want things better for our kids. We want a better life. We want to be healthy. We want to be happy. Those are all things that we share in common. Civility is the key to that.
Absolutely.
To not getting you or me in a position where we have to fight the other person. That it's personal. It's not personal. We're humans. We're trying to solve the ball of wax problem.
I totally agree.
I'm done.
Yeah. Nice. I love it, baby. So yeah, I mean, a social network, I think, can really expedite your growth. It can either, or your growth or your suffering, however you look at it, one or the other.
So true.
And so for me, I want to live a peaceful life. I want to continue to grow and serve. And so a healthy social network makes a big difference in my life.
And then you've got reinforcements. You have like-minded people who share your beliefs. Not everything, but they share the honesty and the authenticity about doing this kind of work. When you have those people in your life, you can count on them, and they can count on you. And it's really a thing that ratchets up this striving to be a better person. It wants you to be. You want to be a better person because the other person is making you play a higher game, a better game.
I love that. And you know what? And before we close, that's what you and Rick, you and Tim do for me. You inspire me to play a better game. When I bring something to you, I just know it's not even possible to bring you an issue in which I blame someone else or I have something with a complaint. I come to you guys for inspiration, for support, and helping come up with a solution. And that's what you guys give me. Guys don't even entertain any of that other nonsense. And I love that.
And I can't speak for Tim, but I know it's the same for him, I think, as it is for you and I. One of the things I love about Keith is that when you talk about an issue, maybe something that, for me, I misinterpreted somebody, or I feel hurt about something that somebody said. Keith his point of view is more like, hey, well, look at it from this point of view. Did you check this out? What about this? Or did you know this was happening? It's a way of having another guy's eyeballs on it, where he's not interested nor invested in making anybody wrong.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. Man, I love you, man.
I love you too.
Thank you for being in my social network.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate being with you.
All right, thank you.